Hey, how is it going? Lee Hayward here, and in today's video I've got something really cool that I want to share with you, and this is about a behavior model that I have been learning from the book Tiny Habits That Change, or what's it called? Tiny Habits by B.J. Fogg, and it's the small changes that change everything. And this is a book that I'm going through. I actually have the Audible version of this book, but I'm going to be getting the hard copy and going through it with a yellow highlighter because this is game-changing stuff, what I'm going to cover here. This is a powerful book, and the thing I like about this book is it focuses on small action steps and how do you actually get yourself to do those action steps instead of relying on motivation and willpower and all that crap. Because motivation and willpower, I'm not saying that's useless, but they're finite resources. You can't willpower your way to get in shape, right? Eventually willpower is going to run out. But you can habit your way into getting in shape by making habits and routines, and this is what this book is all about. And what I want to do in this video is to explain the behavior model that B.J. Fogg covers in this book and break it down to let you know why we do certain things very easily and why other things are very hard to do, and why sometimes our undesirable habits are easy to do and we keep doing them even though internally we know we shouldn't do them, but we do them anyway. And then sometimes the good habits, the ones that we want to do, even though we know we should do them, we want to do them and all that, we end up not doing. We end up procrastinating and putting those things off. And that's what I'm going to cover in this video, is explaining why that happens and how you can take some small action steps to make the desirable habits that you want to develop easier to do and easier to implement, and how you can take some of those undesirable habits, the things that you don't want to do, and actually make them more challenging and harder. And this is something that I really want to dive into deeper in future videos, but for now I'm just going to kind of do a little brief overview. So this right here is the behavior model. And basically what it is on one side we have motivation, on the other side we have the ability, and then in the middle we have the action line. And how this works is things that are easy to do and that you have high motivation for are going to get done. Things that are hard to do and you have low motivation for are not going to get done. And this applies to everything. Like anything that you do, you can break it down and put it somewhere on this behavior model chart. Right? We can put the things that are easy to do and you want to do, boom, right? They're above the action line. Stuff that's harder to do and you don't really want to do, even if you should do it, it's below the action line. And I'll just give you a prime example here to drive this home. Think of the habit of watching TV, right? You come home from a hard day at work and you just want to veg out on the couch, you want to watch television, and maybe you want to have some snacks along with it. Maybe it's a bag of potato chips, maybe it's some candy or ice cream, maybe it's a bottle of beer, maybe it's a glass of wine, whatever. But you just want to veg out, watch TV, and very often the TV is associated with unhealthy snacks. That's a very common behavior for many people, a very common habit. And guess what? The likelihood of that happening is very high. Why? Because one, motivation is high, right? The motivation to watch TV and just relax and veg out on the couch, motivation's high. Is it easy to do? Yep, very easy to do. You just sit on the couch and click the clicker, right? There it is. TV's on. Like there's not a lot of work involved with watching TV. It's high motivation. It's easy to do. Is it any wonder why people spend a lot of time watching TV? Boom. It makes perfect sense. Now, let's compare that to, say, going to the gym. That's like the complete opposite. It's something we know we should do. We should go to the gym. But for a lot of people, it's harder to do. It's harder to go to the gym than it is to sit home and watch TV. And the motivation is probably not as high. It's one of those things like, I know I should do it, but I really don't feel like doing it. And then is it any wonder why a lot of people struggle with going to the gym, right? That's below the action line for most people. Now, right here, this is an example of how motivation can impact what you're willing to do. If the motivation is high enough, you can do hard things. And a prime example here, this is one that BJ used in the book. Imagine a mother protecting her child. Now, let's just say that the house was on fire, the child is trapped in the house, and the mother has to go in and save the child. Is she going to do it? Absolutely, right? Motivation is sky high. Like most parents would put the lives of their children above and beyond themselves. Like they would do anything, move mountains, come hell or high water. They're going to do whatever they can to protect their children. So the motivation is high. Is the task at hand hard to do? Like, is it hard to rush into a burning building and save somebody? Absolutely. You're putting your own life at risk. It is extremely hard to do. But because the motivation is so high, you're going to do it anyway, right? You're going to do it no matter what, or you're going to die trying. Like literally, that's the level of motivation, right? I'm going to do it or I'm going to die trying. And because the motivation is so high, you can do extremely hard things. And you'll find that in a lot of situations. If the motivation is high enough, you will find a way to do whatever it is, or you'll die trying to do whatever it is. Like that's the way it is. Now, on the other side of this curve, if something is really easy to do, but you're not motivated to do it, you're not going to do it, right? Like if you don't have enough motivation, it doesn't matter how easy something is to do, you're not going to do it. And I'll give you an example. Think of flossing your teeth. This is a good one because just the other day I was over at the dentist. I had a dentist appointment, and that was one of the things the dentist told me I need to floss my teeth more. So, right? That's why it's front and center in my mind now. But think of flossing your teeth. Is it easy to do? Yes. Does it take a lot of time? No. Like you, in less than 60 seconds, you can have your teeth flossed. Everybody on the face of the earth can spare 60 seconds over the course of the day. And in fact, it doesn't even take that long, right? I mean, time is really not an issue when it comes to flossing your teeth because you can make the time to do it. Is it easy to do? Yes. Is it hard to do? Is it expensive or beyond your capabilities or beyond your technical skills or anything? No, like it's easy to do. It's easy to floss your teeth. It's cheap. It only takes a minute. Like there's no excuse from a practical point of view why one would not floss their teeth. The only problem is our motivation is so low. It's just like, I really don't care. I just don't want to do it, right? It's just, I don't want to do it, even though it's so easy to do. And that's why it was below the action line. However, when I went to the dentist, she told me that I have gingivitis. And all gingivitis means is your gums bleed. Like, so when the dentist is in there digging away at my teeth and cleaning them, she said, your gums are bleeding. So, I mean, that's gingivitis. She says, you got to take care of your teeth are clean and in good shape because you're brushing them, but you're not flossing them enough. So she said, you need to floss your teeth more, or else those gums are going to continue to get weaker, and she said, that's going to cause your teeth to not be as solid and secure. So it's almost like she give the analogy of a fence post. Imagine you got a fence post in the ground. Even if the fence post is a good, solid post, if there's not enough dirt and the ground supporting the post isn't solid, then that post is going to be loose and wiggly and probably fall out. And she said, your teeth are the same way. So she said, luckily you have very healthy teeth because you're brushing them, but you need to do the flossing to strengthen the gums to support those teeth. So she gave me some reasons to motivate myself to have healthy teeth. Like I want to have clean white teeth, right? I mean, and that's one of my goals, if you will. But I never had enough motivation to do the flossing until the dentist really made this clear to me. And so now I've been flossing my teeth every day for the past week, and I plan on making that a regular habit because it's easy to do, and now I have the motivation, right? She told me, there are signs of gingivitis there. You got to start flossing your teeth. So now my motivation has pushed me above the action line, and I'm actually doing what I should be doing. I'm flossing my teeth. But before that, I wasn't flossing my teeth, right? I mean, it's been over a year since I've been to the dentist. I didn't go since before this COVID thing started and all that stuff, so I never had that reminder or that check-in to say, hey, your teeth are good, but your gums aren't, right? So now I'm flossing my teeth because I want to strengthen my gums and have healthy oral hygiene. And so that's an example of something that's really easy to do, but if the motivation's not there, it ain't going to happen. But you just need a little bit of motivation to put it over the action line, and then it's going to happen. Now, let's look at another example here. Imagine going to the gym. Right? For a lot of people, going to the gym is below the action line, right? It's hard to do for most people, and the motivation is like, I want to do it, but, it's not a do or die. It's not a must. It's something I can procrastinate on, and that's why most people end up procrastinating on it, and they don't actually go. But how can we make the habit of going to the gym easier? How can we get it above the action line? Well, how about we break down that goal of going to the gym and we break it down to a small, easy, bite-sized action step. Instead of the gym, how about we just put on our sneakers and go outside and go for a walk? You know, maybe even if it's just 5 minutes around the block, right? Just a quick little short walk. Like, could you do that? Could you put on your sneakers and walk for 5 minutes? Yeah, probably you could. I mean, that's pretty easy. So even if the motivation doesn't change, we moved the difficulty of the task and made it easier to do. So the likelihood of you actually putting on your sneakers and going for a little walk is much higher than you packing up your gym bag, going to the gym, signing up for a membership, and blah, 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 all that stuff. Like, the task of going to the gym is too hard for most people, but the task of putting on your sneakers and going outside for a little walk, it's a lot easier, and the likelihood of you actually doing it is much higher, and it puts it above the action line. So this is an example of how we can start incorporating exercise into your routine. If you're not exercising right now because it's too hard, let's make exercise easier so it's above the action line and you actually do it. Here's another example. How about starting a diet? Right? That's hard for a lot of people. Like, nobody wants to deprive themselves. Nobody wants to go hungry. Nobody wants to be eating boiled chicken and broccoli and all that kind of stuff. Right? So the task of starting a diet, the motivation is like, yeah, I'd like to lose weight. I'd like to look better and everything else, but I don't want to put that much effort into it. So it stays below the action line. What if we make the task of starting a diet easier? So even if our motivation doesn't change, how can we make it easier? So instead of thinking I have to overhaul my entire diet and I got to start doing everything, counting calories, tracking macros, counting points on Weight Watchers, or going keto and blah, 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 all that jibber jabber, how about we say, I'm just going to start eating healthier? How about I'm going to eat an apple? Like, that's a way you can improve your diet. It's just like a very small, tiny action step. It's just like, instead of going to the gym, we're just going to put on our sneakers and go for a walk. How about instead of overhauling our entire diet, I'm just going to eat an apple, right? Very simple task. Like, could you eat an apple? Yep, pretty darn easy to do. You know, it's above the action line, and it doesn't mean you have to sacrifice or torture yourself or anything like that. It's just, let's start eating more good stuff. How about we start by eating an apple? Maybe this is something you could do with breakfast or with lunch. I'm going to add an apple, and that could be a simple little action step. It puts it above the action line, and it's something that you'll actually do. Whereas if I told you to start a diet or go on keto or join Weight Watchers or start tracking macros and everything else, that's probably below the action line for a lot of people. So focus on making those habits smaller, and you'll actually do them. Here's another one. Like, we can just elaborate on that previous example. Like, the whole idea of cutting out junk food. Like, a lot of people say, well, you know, I got to cut out the potato chips. I got to cut out the pizza. I got to cut out this. I got to cut out that. I'm not allowed to have this. I'm not allowed to have that. And the motivation for doing that is pretty low. You know, like, it's because you enjoy those foods. You get pleasure from them. And it's hard to cut those out, especially if you've been eating them on a regular basis. But how about we just switch our behavior, and instead of thinking of all the bad stuff we need to cut out, how about we just focus on some good stuff that we need to add in? And this is what I always recommend, is eat more protein and vegetables. So instead of thinking of the bad foods you got to eliminate, let's focus on the good foods we need to add in. Eat more protein, eat more vegetables. And once you've done that, if you still want to have a little bit of junk food or not some good food afterwards, that's fine. But make sure to fill up on the protein and vegetables first. And you can make this work for you in your situation, because chances are there are protein foods that you enjoy. There are vegetables that you enjoy. Right? Don't think of the stuff that you don't enjoy. Don't think of like boiled chicken and broccoli. Like, that's probably not the most appetizing food out there. Now, if you love boiled chicken and broccoli, then that's great, but most people probably don't. So maybe you're going to look at some tastier options when it comes to the protein and vegetables. Like, maybe you want to have a nice pan-fried salmon fillet, spiced up just right, and you're going to have some sautéed vegetables with it. I mean, that's actually quite appetizing. It's something you'd probably order in a restaurant. You know, a nice meat and vegetables or protein and vegetables type of dish that's cooked up nice and tasty. And that's a great way to add in more healthy protein and vegetables into your diet. So instead of focusing on the hard stuff, like cutting out all the junk food, no, let's just focus on the easy stuff, adding in more protein and vegetables. Doing that is above the action line, and it's more likely to actually get done. Now, here's a common situation that I hear of. A lot of people want to improve their health, they want to lose weight, they want to get in shape, they want to feel better about themselves, but the motivation isn't high enough, and that's why they're not taking action, because it's not bad enough yet. I mean, it's a sad thing to say, but it's true. Like, a lot of people don't take action because it's not bad enough and they don't have enough motivation. So even though they're not happy, it's still keeping them below the action line because the task is harder than their level of motivation. So they end up procrastinating and staying stuck in a rut. This is where you find a lot of people. But if we can increase the motivation, then you will get yourself to do those challenging tasks. So let's just imagine someone who's overweight, out of shape. They know they need to make a change, but there's no real consequences yet. It's just like, I don't really feel good about myself, but like I say, it's not that bad. It's not bad enough to change. But imagine then they go to the doctor and the doctor says, well, now you are diabetic, or you got high blood pressure, high cholesterol, you got cancer, or whatever, or you have a heart attack, like some big major thing happens. All of a sudden now your health is at risk. Once that happens, then the motivation to improve your health is sky high. Like, nothing has changed. I mean, it's still going to be hard to improve your health, but now if you have motivation, meaning that the doctor just said, you're diabetic now, whereas before you weren't, your motivation to improve your eating is probably going to increase. This actually happened to a relative of mine not too long ago. She was a smoker her entire life, and like a lot of people, tried to quit on and off, quit for a day or two and then pick it back up again, and she did that for years. Kept saying, yeah, I know I shouldn't smoke, but then she'd grab another one, light it up, and have a cigarette. Like, the motivation wasn't there, right? The motivation wasn't there to change. Then she went to her doctor, and she was diagnosed with cancer. All of a sudden, then, once she knew she had cancer, her motivation to quit smoking went sky high, and she actually quit. So she waited until she had cancer before she decided to quit. So, I mean, like, the damage is already done in a lot of cases, but still, once the motivation is high enough, you will take the action needed to make those changes, right? Even if it's still hard to do. Like, it wasn't any easier to quit smoking before cancer or after cancer. Like, the task of quitting smoking is just as hard, but now the motivation is high enough that it pushes the actions above the action line. And she actually quit the smoking, and she's been smoke-free now for several years, which is wonderful. I mean, I'm glad to see it. And they actually did, remove the cancer cells that she had. She had surgery, and they removed the cancer, and currently she's cancer-free, which is wonderful. But it took her hitting that rock bottom, getting that diagnosis of cancer in order for the motivation to get high enough to actually take the action of quitting smoking. So one of the things that you can do, a little mental trick, is try and foresee the future based on where your habits are taking you. Like, even if it's not bad enough yet, think of where you are right now and say, like, if I continue to do this, where is that going to take me in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road? And am I happy with that direction? And like, forecast the future. Like, pretend you got a crystal ball and see into the future. So, for example, if you are a smoker, it's probably a high likelihood that you may develop some side effects from smoking. Cancer is a big one. Yeah, and vice versa, if you take healthy actions, like you eat a clean, healthy diet, you avoid smoking, you avoid alcohol, you avoid recreational drugs, you get adequate sleep, and you look after your health and lifestyle, where is that going to take you over the course of, 5, 10, 15 years down the road? And where do you want to be? Like, sometimes we need to, if it's not bad enough yet, we need to visualize how bad it's going to be in the future, and maybe that will give you the motivation to help bump you over the action line. Now, here's a problem that a lot of people find themselves in, is when we have conflicting motivations. So, prime example, I don't want to eat refined sugar, but at the same time, I want to have that cupcake, right? So, you're conflicted. Like, mentally, no, I don't want to do it. I want to lose weight. I want to improve my health, right? I want the benefits of avoiding the refined sugar, but at the same time, I crave that cupcake. And you can put in whatever junk food it is there for you. I mean, it could be pizza, it could be chocolate bars, it could be alcohol, whatever. Like, you don't want to do it because you know it's bad for you, but at the same time, you want to do it because it tastes good, feels good, whatever, right? So we're having these conflicting emotions. And this is where you really need to get creative and how you can manipulate some of the variables here to move things either above or below the action line, depending on what it is you want to achieve. So if a behavior is hard to do, it's unlikely to become a habit. And I'll give you a prime example. Let's think of going on a ketogenic diet and cutting out carbohydrates. Like, that's pretty hard to do. It's pretty hard to sustain as a lifestyle, for sure. I mean, some people do it in the short term, but it's hard to sustain as a long-term habit, and that's why most people ultimately don't do it, and it stays below the action line. So what if we decided to change the action from cutting out carbohydrates to simply eating more protein and vegetables? I mean, you could still have your carbohydrates. There's nothing wrong with carbohydrates, especially healthy, complex carbohydrates in moderate amounts. But we focus on filling up on the good stuff, more protein and vegetables. Like, that is an easier action step. That's easier to do, and even if the motivation doesn't change, it will put you above the action line, and you can actually follow through and do that. Here's another example. Right? Imagine you want to stop eating chocolate bars, but you love chocolate bars. You love the taste of them and everything else, but you don't like the side effect. You don't like the weight gain. You don't like the fact that it's not healthy. But you're in this dilemma, right? You want to do it because you know it's good for you, but you crave the chocolate bars and you just don't want to give them up. So chances are the short-term pleasure is going to outweigh the long-term benefit, and ultimately it's going to stay below the action line. But how can we modify this behavior and make it better? Well, one simple task that you could do is, how about instead of having a chocolate bar, we have a protein bar? So we're not really giving anything up, we're just swapping one behavior for another. And because we're doing that, the change, in this case, swapping a chocolate bar for a protein bar, it's a pretty simple change. You still get to enjoy a tasty bar. I mean, a lot of protein bars these days taste pretty darn good, but they're lower in sugar, higher in protein, especially if you look at like the Built bars that I mentioned before. I mean, those are very great examples of high protein, low sugar protein bars, and it's a healthy alternative. So that would be a small shift that you could make. Still get to have your bar and enjoy it, but it moves it above the action line, and it's a healthier choice that will help to steer you in the right direction towards reaching your fitness and fat loss goals. Another one that we could switch as well is, maybe you like drinking beer, right? At the end of a hard day, you want to come home and crack open a cold beer. You know, well, what if we just made a better choice? Instead of drinking regular beer, what if we simply swapped it out for non-alcoholic beer? Right? You're not even giving anything up. Like, your lifestyle and your habits are not changing that much. You still come home, you still drink a cold beer. It's just now, instead of drinking a regular beer, we're going to drink a non-alcoholic beer. And that's going to be a healthier choice, do less damage to your body, and help to aid with pushing you in the right direction towards your fitness and fat loss goals. So little switches, like switching a chocolate bar to a protein bar, regular beer to a non-alcoholic beer, regular soda to diet soda. Like, these are small shifts that you can make, and they push you above the action line. And it doesn't take a lot of willpower, doesn't take a lot of motivation or anything like that. It's just small little shifts, but they start to build some positive momentum and move you in the right direction. Anything that you're struggling to do, just think of your motivation and the difficulty of that task. And if your motivation is low and the task is hard, you're not going to do it. Vice versa, think of the things you are doing it. Chances are there's high motivation and it's easy to do, and it's above the action line. So you need to figure out how you can modify these tasks to make things easier to do, the things that you want to do, and the stuff that you don't want to do, make them harder to do. So here's the kicker. When your motivation surges, you can do hard behaviors. When your motivation's low, you're not doing hard behaviors, right? You need to have enough motivation to put you above the action line, depending on the task it is that you're trying to achieve. And the good thing about this whole model is, even if you start with very simple tasks, you build that positive momentum, and those simple tasks become easier and easier, and your ability to do harder tasks will actually increase. So you'll find that you'll be able to work your way up to more challenging things, and your motivation will build as you increase the frequency of this. But you need to start off ridiculously small and just build that positive momentum. Like, a lot of times when I'm talking to people about fitness and nutrition, everyone just says, well, tell me the diet, tell me the workout, tell me the strategies. And they say, well, if I only knew what to do, then I'd do it. And I say, no, that's a crock of BS, because you already know what to do. You already know that drinking booze is not healthy. You already know that smoking cigarettes is not healthy. You already know that eating sugar and chocolate and all that is not healthy. But a lot of times people are doing it anyway. Right? You know, going to the gym and exercising and eating your protein and veggies is healthy, but a lot of times you're not doing it. And it all has to do with this whole behavior model of motivation and the ability, and whether or not something is above or below the action line for you in your situation. And we just need to help to modify those actions, modify those behaviors, and modify the way we look at things so that we are taking small steps, small baby steps in the right direction. And then let those baby steps compound. And the more you build in the small successes, the easier it's going to be to build into bigger and bigger successes. But start off ridiculously small. And this is where I come up with the whole idea of the 1% better, right? That 1% better each day. Instead of trying to overhaul everything from day one, let's just focus on getting 1% better each day. And using this model, we can really clarify and decide, like, what are those 1% action steps? What are those 1% behaviors that we're going to improve on? And then let it build, let it build. And day after day, week after week, month after month, we can build on that momentum and gradually start moving in the right direction without feeling like we are relying on willpower, without feeling like we are suffering or depriving or anything like that. All the negative drawbacks that people have. Because in the short term, yeah, you can rely on willpower. Like, let's just say you stick it out on a diet and a workout routine. It's hard to do, but in the short term, you got the motivation for it. Right? Maybe you got some short-term goal, like you got a beach vacation coming up and you don't want to be embarrassed on the beach. So, I mean, you force yourself to work out, you force yourself to eat right so you can drop a few pounds before you hit the beach vacation. Or think of a woman getting ready for her wedding, right? She doesn't want to be fat and out of shape and have everyone talking about how fat she looks in her wedding dress and in the pictures and in the videos afterwards. Like, she wants to look good on her wedding day. She wants to fit into her dress, and she doesn't want people talking about her jiggly arms and her muffin top. So her motivation is sky high. Even though the tasks are still hard to do, the motivation in the short term is high enough to get her over that hump to actually take some action. But think of then, once the wedding is over, once the pictures are taken, once the video's done and everything is settled and now she's happily married and blah, 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 the motivation drops back down. Then those actions, the diet and the exercise that she was doing before, all of a sudden now that drops below the action line, and that's why she stops working out, and that's why she stops taking care of her health and fitness, and she falls back into her old rut again. Same with, if you're getting ready for the beach vacation, right? Well, that vacation is front and center, and you don't want to be embarrassed on the beach. You don't want to be the guy at the pool with your shirt on because you're too ashamed of your gut. I mean, you're going to do what it takes. You're going to diet. You're going to exercise. You're going to push yourself in the short term. But once the vacation is over and you're back home again, now you don't have that motivation. So your motivation drops down, and now all of a sudden those hard to do tasks of the diet and the exercise is below the action line because the motivation's not there pushing you. And that's what my entire Muscle After 40 blueprint training system is all about. It's not just another diet plan. It's not just another workout program. It's an entire lifestyle plan on how to reprogram your mind, reprogram your habits, and start doing the things that you know you should be doing, but doing them automatically without conscious effort and willpower. I mean, don't get me wrong. We still have workout strategies and diets and all that kind of stuff. I mean, all the tactics are there, but the tactics are secondary. The most important thing is reprogramming this up here and changing your habits, changing your lifestyle, and getting you to follow through on the basics. Mastering the basics is what leads to long-term success. Having the greatest, most complex diet plan with all your macros laid out and meal timing and strategies and all your vitamins and supplements planned out and all that, your workout program with the sets and the reps and the split and blah, blah, blah. Like, you could have the perfect plan on paper, but if you don't follow it, it's not worth jack shit. It's absolutely useless if you don't follow it. So this is all about making you follow through on the little things that you know you should be doing and then build up. And then as you get to the point where you need to expand and get into more advanced training tactics, then yeah, we'll get into that. But we start small. We start with mastering the basics, build the foundation, and then progress from there. And that's the beauty of it. It's the complete opposite mindset that most people have when they go into a fitness program. Like, most people, they want to start off by overhauling everything from day one. Say, like, just give me the program, give me the tactics, give me the macros, and then they just dive headfirst into the deep end, and they try and swim, and they usually end up drowning, meaning they quit. They quit the program, they quit the diet, they quit the workout after a few weeks or a few months or whatever. But we need to change that approach and focus on changing your habits, your behaviors, the way that you look at things, and do so without relying on conscious effort and willpower. And that's what the whole Muscle After 40 blueprint system is all about. And that's why it's so successful. It's not some get ripped quick program. It's a get ripped slow and stay ripped program. That's how it works. It's about making progress, not rapid, crazy, fast progress, slow, steady progress, but the progress you make is the progress you keep. It's not about like losing 30 pounds in 30 days only to put on 35 after 60 days. Like, that doesn't help anybody. If you end up yo-yoing and regaining it all back again, what's the point of even starting in the first place? We want a slow, steady progress, but the progress you make is the progress you keep and the progress you sustain for the rest of your life. That's what it's all about. So I hope you found this video helpful, and if you would like some help with coming up with a realistic action plan so that you can reach your fitness and fat loss goals, and more importantly, sustain them without relying on motivation and willpower and all this crap, if you would like some help with coming up with a realistic action plan and a strategy, then feel free to reach out to me. We can have a chat, we can brainstorm some ideas, and see if we can come up with an action plan that works for you. All right, I'm going to clue it up, and if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you know what to do. You post them down in the comments below, and I will chat with you down there. And stay tuned for a future video coming soon. Take care. Over and out.